So every time I go on the internet lately or watch CNBC or some housing headline online, it's housing market crash, housing market frozen, prices collapsing, nobody can buy homes anymore, real estate apocalypse incoming. And then meanwhile, here in Northern Virginia, someone in Arlington just paid $92,000 over asking for a townhouse with a kitchen from 1994 and a parking spot barely large enough for their Honda Civic. And that is because Northern Virginia is not a normal housing market. It really isn't. And today, I want to show you why this region behaves differently than much of America, using some actual data, but in plain English, not economist language, not realtor jargon, but actual human language. Because honestly, most people looking at these charts are missing the real story. Let's start here because this is the biggest takeaway immediately. National home sales down about 1%. Northern Virginia home sales up over 11%. That is a huge difference. And this is why people moving here from other parts of the country are often shocked. I'll talk to buyers relocating from Texas, Florida, Arizona, maybe North Carolina, and they come in thinking, oh good, the market has cooled off now. And then they lose 3 offers on houses in Arlington or Vienna. Northern Virginia has something that a lot of markets do not, a very deep economic infrastructure. You've got Pentagon related jobs, defense contractors, Amazon HQ2, law firms, consulting, cyber intelligence, agencies, embassies, federal employment, data centers, highly educated dual income households, all economically concentrated within the Northern Virginia region. And now this chart right here helps explain why housing demand in Northern Virginia tends to remain surprisingly resilient. Look at the long-term employment trend in Northern Virginia. Despite recessions, despite COVID, despite interest rate spikes, the region has continued adding jobs over time. And jobs matter enormously in housing. People buy homes when they feel economically stable, professionally optimistic, and confident that they're staying in an area long term. And honestly, Northern Virginia has quietly become one of the most economically powerful regions in America. Government, defense, tech, cybersecurity, consulting, AI, federal contracting. There's a tremendous amount of money and institutional stability here. And that is also why people here somehow normalize paying $22 for a lunchtime salad, sitting in traffic voluntarily, and spending $7 on toll roads before 8 a.m. Now, this next statistic is fascinating. Days on market, up almost 39%. And some people immediately see that number and think, aha, the crash has begun. No, not exactly. 25 days on market is still very fast. In many parts of America, that's considered an extremely strong market. In Northern Virginia, people start getting suspicious if a house survives 2 weekends and 2 open houses. You know how crazy this market got the last few years? Buyers would walk into houses and say, okay, the basement floods sometimes, the HVAC is older than my marriage, and the backyard looks like it hasn't been mowed in weeks. We should probably waive the inspection. What's happening now is not a collapse. It's more like buyers finally have slightly more breathing room. Slightly. This market has gone from absolute insanity to merely intense. Now, this chart gives important historical perspective, and perspective matters. You see this giant spike during the mid-2000s housing bubble, then the sharp drop afterward? So when people today say, this feels exactly like 2008, honestly, I really don't think that it does. Why? Today's market has tighter lending standards, stronger buyer qualifications, far more homeowner equity, less speculative flipping, and still very limited inventory. What we're seeing now feels much more like a normalization after years of historically overheated conditions. And honestly, a lot of younger buyers have only experienced chaos. So to them, a house lasting 18 days on the market feels like the Great Depression. This here may actually be the most important statistic in my entire video. Months of inventory, 1.39 months. Nationally, 4.1 months. In plain English, Northern Virginia still does not have enough homes for sale. Not even close. And one major reason is what economists call the lock-in effect. A lot of homeowners are sitting on mortgage rates that they got several years ago around 2.8%, 3%, 3.2%. And psychologically, it is very hard for people to voluntarily leave that behind. So instead of moving, people renovate, people finish basements, people build additions, people convince themselves, you know what? Maybe the kids can share one bathroom until college. Now, this is where things get really interesting because there is no longer one Northern Virginia housing market. There are a bunch of micro markets. Let's talk about Arlington. Look at Arlington. Prices are up strongly, sales are up strongly, and forecasts for 2026 still show Arlington remaining relatively resilient. Why? Because walkability still matters enormously. People increasingly value metro access, restaurants, shorter commutes, airport access, flexibility, and urban energy without a full DC chaos. Arlington is basically, I want city life, but I also want my Amazon packages to arrive safely. Alexandria is fascinating because buyers here are often buying lifestyle as much as they're buying square footage. Old Town, Del Rey, Rosemont, tree-lined streets, walkability, historic character. People fall in love with Alexandria emotionally. And Alexandria actually looks fairly balanced in 2026. Prices are modestly up, sales activity is stable, inventory is rising, but demand is still relatively healthy. Now in Fairfax County, Fairfax feels steadier overall. Not dramatic, not euphoric, but not collapsing. It's more like buyers still want in, but they're negotiating harder now. And Fairfax townhomes continue looking surprisingly resilient because increasingly the Northern Virginia compromise product is the nice townhome. People say, I want decent schools, a manageable commute, more space than a condo, but I also don't want a $1.7 million detached house. Prince William County is where affordability pressures become more obvious. And honestly, I think that post-pandemic commute fatigue matters. People started asking, do I really want that drive 5 days a week? Loudoun County still looks relatively strong overall. Schools, newer housing stock, tech corridor growth, higher income households. But inventory rising there is important because buyers may finally start getting more choices. I think distance matters more now when rates are higher, commuting costs are higher, and buyers are becoming more selective. So the overall picture I see right now is not market collapse. And honestly, it's not even a major boom. What I see is a market that is gradually rebalancing. And now, what may be the single most important long-term chart in the video. Look at Northern Virginia home prices over time. There are dips, there are corrections, and there are slow periods. But the long-term trend still upward. Now that does not mean prices only go up forever. Real estate absolutely moves in cycles. But historically, Northern Virginia has shown remarkable long-term resilience. Why? This region keeps attracting jobs, infrastructure, education, government spending, global talent, and high-income households. If I had to summarize the Northern Virginia market in one sentence right now, I would say this market is cooling from historic insanity, but it is not collapsing. And honestly, I still think Northern Virginia remains one of the stronger long-term housing markets in all of America. Not because it's cheap, and definitely not because traffic is enjoyable, but because this region has very deep economic roots. So if you're thinking about buying or selling anywhere around Arlington, Alexandria, McLean, Vienna, Fairfax, Springfield, or anywhere else around Northern Virginia, I would be more than happy to help you understand not just the numbers, but what the numbers actually mean. And if there's a specific neighborhood or micro market you want me to break down next, just drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to do so. Because honestly, Ballston and Burke may as well be different planets sometime.